All right, man, let's get right to the questions.
Let's get right. We've said that for like the last 4 episodes. I think we've gotten to like 6 of like the 600. But luckily and thankfully, looking back on it, I honestly couldn't be happier that one of the questions that I did address was my opinion on smart trainers, because there's been a very lively discussion or a closed group about smart trainers that our good buddy Howard Skylar dropped in there. It quoted a little bit out of context, but I might go into that in a little bit. But I stand by my comments. I'm not the
Yeah, I
president
know
of
you're
the United
strong
States.
in that comment.
I'm strong on it. Well, let me do the intro first. First off, welcome aboard. Today is today's a Thursday. Dude, we're in July. It is July 1st. We are on the back half of the year, and it has flown by the year 2021.
Okay.
Welcome aboard, Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 491, as we can continue the road show.
Yep. So
I'm going to say something.
what?
I kind of miss being in the same office with you.
Oh man, I know. I totally agree with that.
It feels like I've lost my. Not that I mean, let's be honest. Not that I have a lot of mojo, but I feel like I lose a little mojo and the energy being able to look over there in your Hokas and your skinny jeans and your white Hanes shirt. Looking like
Yeah.
like the guy from Greece, and then kind of giving me looks like I feel like as I'm staring at this blank wall with nobody in the room, it's kind of lonely. I feel like without having you around, that you're like it's like my kryptonite. Like you're my
Yeah.
superpower.
I'm kind of like that guy from Greece meets like America's Cup skipper.
Was it James Dean? Is that the guy that could rock that like solid look? And that what his name was?
I doubt for a fucking mile that he wore Hokas, but yeah,
Yeah,
James Dean.
he'd not wear, maybe when he get into his 60s. But as always, thank you for tuning in. If it's your first time listening, we appreciate you. We know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and also podcasts in general. So we appreciate you giving us our time. We cover it all. We cover triathlon, we cover life, we cover everything in between. Sometimes we'll go into our closed Facebook group and we'll ask them to put out questions, and we'll answer about 10% of them. And then we'll get sidetracked on our usual discussions, but sometimes we actually blaze our way through and cover a lot of them. And I'm sure we'll go back and use these. But we cover it all. We'll go in depth on swim, bike, and run training. We'll do race recaps. We'll do race previews. Sometimes we'll have on a guest, like a race director. Some of our favorite guests have been the likes of Ken Hammond and Seat on
Ken
Mike
Hammond.
directors. Yeah, Ken Hammond, awesome. He's got 2 races coming up, Muscle Man and Ohio. So big shout out to him. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, just kind of sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through, what our athletes are going through. We also have a closed Facebook group. You can hop on Facebook and search Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question, we'll let you in. A lot of really awesome people in there that can answer a lot of questions everywhere from beginners to experienced veterans that have won races and won Ironmans, Kona qualifiers, first timers, everyone in between. There really is a lot of awesome people in there. So if you want to be part of that group, go in there. And like we said about the questions, a lot of times we'll just take the vibe from that group and let that kind of springboard the conversation of the day. Obviously, with Mike and I being coaches and athletes ourselves, we have not just our own experiences to go through, how we navigate life and how we navigate training and racing and all the pitfalls and also successes that we've had over the last 10 or 15 years. We're also fortunate enough to work with a wide range of athletes, from beginners to former professionals to Kona qualifiers and beginners, and we kind of have their stories that we hear and see every day through training and training peaks and emails and texts and combos. So it's an endless discussion. We're not experts, we're not professionals. We're just like you. We're just kind of going through things and trying to figure out our way. And Mike and I try to deliver a podcast in a consumable fashion so you can take it and apply it to your life, not so much in a cut and paste way, but kind of take it, filter it out, take what you like, discard what you don't, apply it, make it your own, because it is your journey. And we just want to have a small part in it to kind of keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, kind of a nuanced way. Make it your own.
Nuanced way, yeah. Take it. I mean, listen, like
Take what you want
80%
and
of it we do in life is the exact same. It's just a nuance, right? that goes into it. If you want to figure out more about all the things that we do, you can start at a great place on Instagram, and I think they call that your feed or your reel now. And you can go
Real.
to C20 the reel. You can go to C26_triathlon, where we highlight a lot of things that are going on in our community. You can also go to our website, which is our one-stop shop. It is c26triathlon.com. You can check out everything you know about coaching camps in our community, also our club membership, and then our soon-to-be expiring on July 15th hub and condo package, where you can come into Chattanooga, stay one night in our three-story. I guess we should change it to condo or to townhome, because it is a townhome, three-story townhome. Walk over to the hub, do a swim analysis, a bike fit, a bike testing, run analysis, run form. Do it all for $475. You can book that now till July 15th, and then that offer expires. But you can book it and schedule out all the way through the end of 22. If you want more info on that, you can email summer at c26operations@gmail.com. And then we'll be releasing, we just obviously did our last camp in Nashville, and we released that to our team earlier this week, and I'm thinking we may have some spots open to the general public. We've only got 6 left as of right now. We're our capping at 35, so we've already had 29 people sign up. So we'll release that on Monday to the general public. So if you want to be in that for next year, it's definitely one of our most, if not the most popular camp that we have that we open to the public. That's not just for our team. And then also we'll be releasing our first ever camp in the Woodlands, Texas. It'll be next March. So be on the lookout for that. Registration went live for athletes today, and so be on the lookout for that on our Instagram feed and on our website, and we'll mention that, and I may put some links into the podcast.
Wow, man, that's a lot going on.
Dude, I hit it hard from the outset today. I feel like that was
You came strong, and I gotta say, what I told you today, this was my 8th day in a row up before
I
7
know,
o'clock.
dude.
I gotta be honest, man, I'm hitting the wall right now. Can't we
Dude,
start doing these earlier?
I can't imagine, dude. You ain't got to tell me. But listen, don't start a trend you can't keep.
I
Okay?
know.
Don't start
This
a
ain't a.
trend you
This
can't.
got to be at least 30 days, or I'm not even going to talk about it anymore.
Don't jinx it, man. Just let it be. Just let it go. But I gotta say, you were we usually give out, kind of, you and I, we don't give them out, but if I had to give out a camp superlative, yours would be like you're most improved, like in terms of
Most improved wake upper.
most improved wake upper, man. You're obviously a person who does the night shift. So if this continues, we're gonna have to hire somebody just to take care of the night shift. So just don't become somebody you're not, okay? Because I'm gonna have to hire somebody else.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I'm not too concerned about it, but it does kind of feel interesting.
Well, good. Well,
But
just let it roll and be yourself.
I just feel
We
like
were
the
gonna.
earlier you get up, the more work you have to do.
I know, dude. You ain't gonna tell me, dude. It's my life.
I
We
know.
we were gonna get into questions today, and I don't think it's a bad idea, but I do, as I'm starting to chip away, and I know you are too, on the rest of the year. I always kind of feel like the beginning part of the year is just, and for obvious reasons, at least here in North America, is very heavy in the short course sprints and Olympics and 70.3s. It's just heavy on the short course. There's very, very few long course races that are beyond 70.3. And as I was kind of, again, making my way through Training Peak, starting to build out the next couple blocks for athletes, it's just like, hello, are there any short course races the rest of the year? You got Ironman Maryland, you got Ironman Arizona, you got Ironman Florida, you got Ironman Wisconsin, you got Ironman Chattanooga. Like, that's just to name a few. Like, it's one after another. You got Ironman Muncie, its first year. Like, you got Ironman Texas, which is also gonna be in October. It's just like bang, 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 bang. And I was reminded of this. I talked a little bit about this before we went live. That I thought it was an important discussion with all these long. Lake Placid is another one coming up here at the end of July. That it was just important discussion to have, like the differences between 70.3 and full racing, because I was listening, as I was traveling on Sunday, I was listening to the Facebook live feed at Coeur d'Alene, and if you haven't watched it or at least listened to it, I think I would encourage you to, because I think it's just a great reminder of how difficult and unpredictable Ironman racing is, not just for the age groupers, but for the professionals. And so if you don't want a spoiler alert, then close your ears. But obviously, like Lionel Sanders is, as I'd say, like one of the top 5, 6, 7 professional athletes in the world. I tend to think he is a 70.3 workhorse. That I think that was what God put him on the earth to do. In terms of his, everybody has a different physiology. I think that's just the thing. Ironman, he's gotten right, quite a few times, but it's also not quite a few times. And but he's one of the fan favorites for a lot. For a lot of reasons. He has his own YouTube channel. He's very engaging. People like that. And so I think he was kind of the favorite going into Coeur d'Alene, um, amongst the field. And you had a guy named Sam Long who was a little bit younger. But anyway, Sam Long gets off the bike with the lead. Lionel Sanders comes up, just like if you watch like the St. George 70.3, which is the North American Championships. They ended up running like shoulder to shoulder for like the last 5K until Lionel Sanders broke away. And ended up winning and had an insanely incredible race, I thought. Well paced, well thought out, well executed. And so I'm listening to it, and I think Sam Long had like a minute plus lead coming off the bike. And again, the Coeur d'Alene, tough course, very, very hot. Yet professionals still don't have the same margin for error in the long distances to do 70.3s. And Lionel Sanders ran up, caught him. They ran shoulder to shoulder for a bit, and then off Sam Long went, which I don't honestly think anybody could have predicted. As good on form as Lionel has been in a lot of his short course races. Um, and there he went. And then Lionel got slower and slower and walked and threw up and apparently just like totally misfired. According to him, he misfired on his nutrition big time. He went with like a Gatorade concentrate, which like I can't even imagine stomaching a Gatorade concentrate. But that's a sponsor, and so I just think I think it's a great time, right? As we're getting into all of these races that are coming up, these long distance races in the heat of the day. Um, just and generally, I think, and again, I said this to you, like most athletes, honestly, they can fake their way through training, right? From a preparation standpoint, they can fake their way through a sprint, an Olympic, and a lot of athletes can kind of just muck their way through the preparation, the execution from a nutritional and a pacing standpoint, even for a 70.3, and just make it right. And even like your good days, you might think are your best, might not be. They might just be mediocre days. You just haven't fine tuned your nutritional strategy. But once you get over a 70.3 distance, your margin for error goes. I don't even say it's cut down 80%. And even the professionals, guys that are experienced that do this for a living, that win races, that win championships, they're not immune to the day, to having to have a plan A and a plan B and a plan C, because as you and I both have done a ton of long course races, sometimes your plan C becomes your plan A. And I just think that it's a good discussion, because again, I think a lot of athletes can, even kind of fake their way into grabbing whatever nutrition they want for the day. And this isn't going to be a nutritional podcast, that we're going to go down to macros and fluids and sweat loss, because neither you or I are experts in that field, or sports dietitians and nutritionists. But I think it's just a small example of all the things that can go wrong once you hit the 7 hour mark, and how long of a day a 2.4 mile swim is, a 112 mile bike is, and then a marathon is. All the things that can go wrong, how much you have to prepare, and then what to do when things can go awry.
Mm. Well, man, it's when you're talking about like a 70.3, it's almost like, if you think about like just not eating all day, how angry you get towards the end of the day, but you can kind of sneak by to noon, right? With a cup of coffee or two.
You can make it.
It's like half the thing. But yeah, I don't, yeah, I mean, it's such a long day that you have to, like you're saying, I mean, you're not going as hard, obviously, but it's just a longer churn, man. And I think that you're right. It's like it can eat you up in the long run, but like in a 70.3, I don't know. Yeah, you can kind of just sort of. Are you trying to tell me that you think 70.3s are easy? No, I'm kidding.
No, I'm just saying, like you can, like, I'm not saying they're easy, but if you think about it, like how much less of a and everybody knows this, like if you've done a 70.3 and you've done a full, once you've trained for a full, you're like 70.3 what, like I feel like this is off season training, like and it's not just from a nutritional standpoint. You can totally f up your pacing in a 70.3 and still kind of make it right. You can still hold on because you're only in the bike for 56 miles, right? It's not just a 70.3 times 2 times. So if you're a 4.5 hour 70.3 guy, you're at the point in the spectrum. It's not just 4 hours and 30 minutes times 2 to get you 9 hours. That's probably like 9.5 hours. Like, that's such a long time to be out there racing. And because the thing about it is that with long course racing, the mistakes you make are magnified because you're on course longer, you're in the elements longer. You have to be out there using your energy longer, in my opinion, it's because the run is so much longer, right? It's obviously twice as long. You have 100, but because that's where the penalty comes up, right? Is it's always comes in there. When we talk about this a lot, people get off the, come back with a race and they're like, oh, I got to really hit a big run block. My run's just suffering. I'm like, go back and look at your bike. Did you pace it correctly? Did you nail your nutrition? Because you have 112 miles to get it wrong, to pace wrong, to make poor decisions, to skip special needs, right, and grab your bag, to miss a bottle at an aid station, to go way out of your zones on your on your pacing for the day, to pass drafting packs and do 300 watts for 5 minutes just because you have so much time, right? Because listen, we all make mistakes just every day when we shouldn't have anything going on in our life. We just kind of f up and make mistakes. Now you're on your bike in a race, being competitive in an environment, you're going to make a mistake. And in my opinion, it's the 112 miles of opportunity you have to make that mistake that just are magnified by how difficult it is not to just run a marathon, right? Because I think that, in my opinion, racing an open marathon is the hardest thing to do in endurance sports. Not because it's, obviously you'd say, oh, you 100 miler, but because for a marathon or for runners, it's like you're racing the whole thing. There is no pacing. You are racing the entire thing and having to nail your nutrition for 2.5 to 3.5 hours. Well, think about having to run and put that kind of effort out to a marathon after you've done a 112-mile bike, and oh, by the way, a 2.4-mile swim. Like, you have all this opportunity before the most impactful portion of the race. I think anybody, like to argue, is the run. It's 26 miles. It's a pounding on your body. It's how you have to have nailed your nutrition. You get a 2.4-mile swim you had to be prepared for. You had a 112-mile bike you had to be prepared for, and nail with pacing, and nail your nutrition, and nail your fluid intake. Nailing all those things, it's a huge task. It can feel daunting. In a 70.3, you might be on the bike course for some course, especially if you're like a drafted or not drafted, with current swim, you're in the course for like 20, 25, 26 minutes. You're on the bike for 2.5, 2:45. Like, you're barely doing anything. You're like not even halfway through the bike of an Ironman before you're off the bike and running your first 10K. You can make those pacing mistakes because the amount of time is so much shorter. And in my opinion, the time of day is so different. So many athletes hop on the course. I mean, even if they started at like 5:30 at Coeur d'Alene, and now that you're a morning guy, you can probably look up that race. But like the old school Idaho, Boise 70.3, that was your race, dude. You missed it. It
That
was
was
your race.
noon, right?
Yes, old school, way, way, way back in the day, when dumb trainers were popular. Boise 70.3,
You
Boise
just slid it
70.3.
in, man.
Oh, I'm gonna slide a lot of them in today, baby.
Yeah,
Boise 70.3 was a noon start.
I
And
know.
actually,
That's how
the
they should.
last race they had there, it was so cold even at noon that the bike was shortened and the pros ran wetsuits from the swim, and they left them on and rode the bike in their wetsuits anyway. But that's again an example of, like, your plan A becomes your plan C, when you woke up that morning, and it's being able to deviate. So I think that I do think it's the length of the day, and then it's where things come off. If you didn't get off the bike at noon, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the hottest part of the day, and if you haven't nailed your nutrition, then your marathon is going to become what a lot of people refer to it as a death march. It is just a slow, agonizing, ego humbling experience to where all you can think about is, what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong with pacing? What did I not dial in training? What did I think I had right that wasn't right? And it can either be the part of the race where your race comes together and you're running past those people walking, or it'll be that period of the race where you're having to walk, your race is over, and all you're left to do is reflect on the mistakes that you made.
Mm. So basically, what you're telling me is in a 70. Well, here's the thing though, is like for a lot of people listening, they're probably like 70.3s. We can just go screw that up and be fine. It's like, I think it's all obviously relative. I mean, maybe, in a comparison study, it would be sort of like going from an Olympic to a 70.3 or something like that. Cause depending on the part of your triathlon journey, like an Olympic can start to feel like can be super hard at first, and then after you do a 70.3 or something like that, a couple of them, then all of a sudden the Olympic is just like how to burn the tank, and you can kind of hold on kind of thing and not
Mm-hmm.
worry about it. And I think that's sort of what you're getting at a little bit, is like with the more 70.3s you do, first of all, the more and fulls, then the more you get in. I mean, even a 70.3 training, but certainly for full, I mean, you're going out riding 70, 60, 70, 80 miles, all the time, really a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And then all of a sudden a 50 or it doesn't seem like much. And that's sort of what happens. Right. And it is, I also think that's just fitness, like I said it before. I mean, I think nutrition is probably the most underrated and the most overrated thing at times, because like if you're really fit, you just don't, I don't think you need, I mean, unless you're like burning, at pro level, top end, kind of burning the fuel, you got to really kind of be precise with that stuff a lot more. But for most people doing a race, if they're really good fit, if they're just in really good shape, I really don't think you need as much a lot of times. I don't know. That's just
You
my
don't
thing.
need as much nutrition. Well, you're not going to
Yeah,
be out there. Well, you do. You need this. You need
I'm just
as
saying if
much
you're in way
as.
better shape, you may not need it as much, because I can tell, I just think like if you're out of shape or you're kind of getting back in, you always think like, I need more fuel. I need more fuel. Well, no, you need more oxygen. You know what I mean? In your blood. It's just like you need your heart to work better and all that other kind of shit like that. I just
Well,
think we
it's
lean on
relative.
nutrition hard as a crutch sometimes is all I'm saying.
Well, I think it's what as people. I think people can use nutrition in the wrong context and how they are addressing it, right? And like, because you see a lot of athletes. Because I think honestly, the biggest difference between obviously outside of fitness, the biggest area that people fail or succeed in full distance racing is because of nutrition. They either nail it or they f it up. Um, there's really not a lot of much of an in between from a nutrition standpoint. It's either you nail it or you f it up,
And
or you just
how
kind
often are those
or
F
just
ups
kind of
too
get by.
much?
What's that?
How often are those F ups too much nutrition? Is my point here.
I think more. I mean, I think Lionel Sanders would say he had too much. He had too much of a concentrate in his. I haven't watched like the entire video because it was 20 minutes, and frankly, I didn't want to watch all 20. Um, but I think a lot of athletes sometimes will take in too much because at some point with the heat in his race especially, when it's so hot, you can only take in so much until your body's like, "Hello, I'm done. No, I'm not taking any more." Um, that's why you have to be. That's why it has to be dialed in to be successful to nail your day. But I think a lot of athletes just wait till the last minute to dial in their nutrition because you can't dial in a month. Right? And like even when I watch this video, he was like, I practiced this exact nutrition in training, and then on race day it seemed to not work out. And for a lot of athletes, it's like, oh well, the week or two out, they're like, I think I'm gonna try to fine tune things. Like just because it goes okay, right? Because I think that's one of the biggest failures I see as a coach is because athletes see a workout go okay, they label it a success or they label it something didn't go wrong. When the truth is that maybe they needed more or maybe they needed less, right? Like it's not about getting too much, it's not about getting too little, it's about getting it right. In order to get it right, you have to do it a lot. You can't just take a sample size of 3 and be like, dude, I got my nutrition nailed down. You have to practice it and practice it and practice it, not just at a leisurely, trainer ride or outside on your bike. You have to do the same intensity because, especially for like 70.3 racing, consuming calories on a leisurely, 4-hour ride where you're stopping 3 times at the picnic table with your buddies and you're pretty much chilling in zone 2 is a whole different story than riding for 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 5 hours at 80%, if that's what you're going to race at, because the higher your intensity is, the harder it is to absorb calories, but a lot of athletes don't go that far down the line. And again, and the same thing goes for, like, you do a race and you label it a success because it met all your expectations. But for all we know, and this is why endurance sports is so great, but also so frustrating, is it may have gone really well, but it might not have been your best, right? Because you might not have nailed your taper or your nutrition or your build. Like, it's just there's so many pieces in endurance sports, and especially triathlon, to get right, that there's rarely ever, because even in buildups, right? Like, even in the buildups, you're not going to have you won't have the most ideal buildup. It's what you do with it. It's about, again, you could have the best race and not the best buildup. You could have the best buildup and not the best race. Like, you're not guaranteed anything. Like, you go back and look at the last time there was Kona in 2019, Tim O'Donnell, who, like, if you don't love him, I don't know what's wrong with you, but he was second place. It was basically shelved from running for the months and months, and, like, not months and months, but, like, I think a month or two before Kona, and was just doing aqua jogging and basically just riding his bike a lot. And then he walked into race day and ran, like, one of the fastest marathons and ran his way to second place. Like, that's just a great example. And I think, and obviously the vice versa, like, you can have the most perfect, best build ever, and then on race day, nothing's guaranteed, right? And I think that's one of the things that athletes, again, it all comes down to knowing yourself and understanding, like, the warning signals, or the positive ones, that are like, things are going poorly, things are not going poorly, things are going great, things are not going great. What do those signals look like? What do those things feel like? How do I how can I think through those things? Like, I don't even think we talked about that on air. But I want to, going back and to the watching the Olympic trials, Katie Ledecky was saying, when she's, like, really in tune with her body, when she's doing the 1500, which is, I think, her best event, obviously, outside of the 800, she knows what to expect at certain points. Her legs are going to burn. She's going to get a side stitch. These things aren't going to feel very. And that's why I think swimming is so wonderful, because it's such a pure sport. They're not weighed down by gadgets and metrics and pace displays. It's just them, goggles, a suit, and a cap, knowing their effort. They don't know how fast they're swimming. They're not looking at their Garmin watch. It's just effort and pacing. And she knows her body so well. She knows what to expect, and then also knows how to either troubleshoot, most importantly knows it's going to go away. Because, you know what? I've had the side stitches. I've had the legs burn. I've had this arm get tired. I've had this, happen. But I know I can keep going at this effort, and it's going to go away. So, because honestly, I think expecting and knowing the bad things that can happen, and have gone through them before, once you get to race day, you're like, okay, I can expect this, and this, and this. And when it does happen, I'm going to do this. Or, just because this happens doesn't mean I have to change my whole day. But at the same time, so many athletes get a plan A, or get a pacing plan from their coach out of the gate, and follow it blindly without feeling empowered enough to navigate away from it in order to have the best possible day they can have today. Not the best performance they thought they could have in TriCalc, not the best, 5-hour ride they did on their trainer, not the best track, repeat workout they did at the local high school, not the best nonstop swim pace they did in the pool with their wetsuit on, pushing off the walls like a NASA spaceship. What's the best you can have, or what you can get out of your body today? Because, again, when you wake up on race day, your body doesn't say, all right, everything's going to go perfect. Listen, Robbie, today's race day. I got your back. Like, I'm going to let everything go smoothly. You're going to digest things perfectly. Your legs going to feel like a powered up machine. You're going to breathe deeply. You're going to feel like a pep in your step. You're going to be mentally engaged. It doesn't care. You're going to wake up and have the day you're going to have. And I think, but a lot of times, navigating and having the confidence to go from your plan A to your plan B to your plan Z to your plan C, you can have your best day if you're able to navigate away from that, troubleshoot, and make decisions on the fly, and be confident that what you're doing is the right decision to make.
Mm-hmm. And I think that you just took the words out of my mouth. I just wrote down adjusting on the fly. I think those are the things that when you experience them in training, like, you can fall off you'd be like, all right, I got to go with my B plan here. And then I think you can almost come back into the A plan depending on how you handle it.
100%.
So those are the things that, yeah, like, man, like, you know me, I'm just so that way in training and everything. And it's like today I went out, I was doing a first run since, I guess, run camp on Saturday, and started off, and it was like, you know, not there at all kind of thing. And I think this is very common, but as I got going, I started to feel a lot better. And then I kind of went back in the tank. And then, so I just really pay attention to those things. And my biggest thing is always figuring out how to get through it, because I don't think that, you know, a lot of times what we call bonking is really bonking. It's just kind of like,
It's
you know,
bad pacing.
it's bad pacing, and
It's bad
it's
pacing.
giving up though is you know what I mean? Depending on when it is, you know, you can, yeah, well, I think if you actually get to a real bonk, you weren't paying attention maybe, or something like that, because I think you can really see that kind of thing coming, and you gotta know when to kind of pull back a little bit. I did have
I
that little run that I wanted to ask a quick question. It might be a sidebar here real quick, but
Go ahead.
I had a thought about this because um you know, we talk about zone 2 running all the time and what that is, and usually it's referred to as like in heart rate type things. And I just was wondering, like, because I felt like today I was running heart rate maybe like zone 4, and I felt like my legs were zone 2. Is there like, is that ever been like a discussion we've had
I
as
mean,
far as, you know, because I've been riding
this
my bike a lot,
timing.
my legs feel strong, but my cardio, you know,
Welcome to summer, dude. That's summer. It's like
yeah,
your zone 2 legs, and you look at your heart rate, and you're like, wait a minute, this is like why? Like I can't. Like I swam yesterday afternoon in an outdoor pool, and I was thinking, I was like, why am I swimming so slow? I'm not like this doesn't feel good. What's going on? Like, and I had ran the morning, but I was swimming, and I was like, this doesn't feel right. So I get out of the pool, and I kind of did like the same thing like you do when you're on a bike ride, and you're like, dude, I just don't have it today, and you're like, it's got to be the brakes, right? My brakes got to be rubbing. You check your brakes, and they're rubbing. You're like, shit. And you're like, maybe you know what? I forgot to pump up my rear tire. Let me check the PSI. It's probably like 50. That'll explain it. You check your tire, and like, oh crap, it's 95. So maybe I'm just having a bad day. I got out of the pool, and I think I was fatigued, but also the dew point was 74. And I was like, well, no wonder. Like you could barely breathe. Like when the dew point's that high, it's hard to breathe and your heart rate goes up. You're gonna be more tired. Like that is 100% this time of year.
mm,
It's
uh,
also, it also like vice versa. You could have like rock hard legs, but feel like really really good aerobically. Like your legs could be trashed and you could feel really good, or like your heart rate could be very very low. That's usually a sign of like you're not necessarily maybe overtraining, because I think most athletes aren't even near overtraining. Them doing enough hours. It's just under recovering. um but most of the time, especially this time of year, you're doing like, your zone 2 pace, zone 2 feel, and your heart rate, like when you walk to the mailbox, is like zone 4 or zone 5. That's why I think this time of year it's like super important to go so much by feel. um and just and but also because this time of year, again, if you're gonna race in it, then you better know what it feels like, right? You better know what the sweat feels like coming into your eyes. You better know how quickly your body heats up and starts to overheat and overcook. Like you need to know those things quickly. And that's why I think like just being really really aware this time of year is just very 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 important to do, and to understand. But that was a good sidebar. I
well,
think I had
yeah,
something
I
else to
guess
say and I totally lost it.
what, oh, what you're where you're going?
Yeah, another sidebar, but go ahead.
Oh, I guess I also, though, in some ways I just feel like my legs might be a little ahead of my lungs right now. That's all I'm saying too.
Well, it very well could be.
Yeah, you
It
know.
very
So I was just
well.
thinking about that in an interesting perspective. Like if you're on your feet a lot and you're doing things, I've been riding a lot, but I haven't been like pushing myself like you wouldn't maybe in the pool or with hill repeats or something on the running. And I just think my cardiovascular's got catching up to do on the lower level muscular.
One's always going to be slightly ahead of the other. And a good way to like, kind of feel that out is if you're doing like a really, really hard interval, especially on the bike,
Mm-hmm.
if your muscles, because you can like grind it out and B, have like a lower heart rate, and you feel better aerobically and anaerobically in your lungs when you're kind of grinding out at a big gear. But then again, your muscles start to fatigue pretty quick because you're just grinding it, right? Or you pop up to like a higher cadence, you're probably not pushing as much power. Your legs don't feel the burn, but your heart rate's like jumping out of your chest. It's
Yeah.
like we all kind of I think go through those type scenarios where we have those days where you're like, God, I wish I could just run a little bit faster. My lungs feel incredible, but my legs won't take me anywhere. I think
Hmm.
I think everybody has those mismatch days where they just don't make sense. They don't add up. I tend to think that it's when your heart rate's super low and your legs feel like trash. That's when you kind of need to be. You've either fueled very, very poorly, or you're just overly tired, and it's time for a day off and kind of let your body catch up. But I think we all have. Listen, like we all, if you like, I was commenting on someone's training peaks yesterday. She thinks she had like 2 rough workouts in a row, and then obviously like today she had like an outstanding workout. But I was like, when you work out every day, or twice a day, every day, you're gonna have 2 bad days in a row. Like that's just that's just the math. Like if you're that consistent year in or week in and week out, you're gonna have back to back bad days, just like you're gonna end up having back to back incredible days or back
Mm.
to back meh days. Like you're just that's just how it goes, right? That's just when you do it that many times. It's like if you play like the little compute, like if you're just gonna sit there and you're gonna flip a coin, right? 100 times in a row. You got it. One side is heads, one side is tails, and you're gonna flip it. You're gonna get some blocks of those spans where you're gonna maybe it's like flip 13, 14, and 15 are all heads. Like whoa, wait a minute. Is this coin rigged? Is this what's going on? No, that's just how it works out. But by the end of it, it's probably going to end up being 50-50, 60-40, 55-45. It's going to be close, but we all have those. When you do something so consistently, you're going to have blocks and periods where things go really, really right. Things seem like they're going really, really not okay. And then the same span where things are just kind of going, this is fine. This is okay. That's what happens when you're super consistent, right? Because like the same point, somebody will say like I had an athlete who like didn't have access to a pool for a week and he got in and swam and he was like, dude, this swim felt incredible, my arms are super strong. Having said that, they should, because I haven't swam in a week, because his arms are super fresh because he didn't swim a lot, so or he could have swam all week before, it got better Monday, had an okay to swim, be like, I've lost my swim fitness, right? But like, no, you didn't. Your arms are tired. So but again, like going back through like the streak that you can have in training, or flipping a coin, like that's how Ironman racing is too. Like you can't believe everything that you feel or that you see. You can't take it home with you. And going back to what you said about, about bonking, right? It's like a lot of times it's not a nutritional problem. It's just an absolute failure in deviating from what you're feeling and what you're seeing effort-wise in your own body and your own mind. Like no matter what, no matter what you think you're supposed to do what you feel is right. Like, but we get so married to the data and the numbers and what I'm supposed to do, that you just totally blindly disregard all the bells and whistles and alarms and sirens going off in and around your head and your body. It's like, hey, hello, Mike, dude, slow down, brother, relax. But you're like, no, I'm bullheaded. I'm going to hold on to, this pace or this watch, this heart rate, be damned what my body is saying. My Garmin says this, you know, or it could say, hello, Mike, stop looking at your watch and slowing us down. We got it today, baby. Let's roll. Like you can go
Hmm.
both ways with that. But I think the moral of the story is like, no matter what you feel in the middle, the end result can still be a success, right? And going back to like I did this morning on one of our new sponsors, Cyclops Dumb Trainer. I was doing some bike testing. I seriously, dude, I can't. Like like it. Sometimes I forget that I've been around the sport so long that like I was doing. I hopped on Zwift when it first launched, like it's 5 or 6 years ago, and like I sometimes I forget though, people that get in this sport now have literally no idea that they're just like regular trainers. So when you say a smart trainer, it can be overrated if you just have a power meter and a dumb trainer, that they're like, oh my God, I can't believe it's blasphemous. I can't believe we talked about my religion, my politics, and my diet that way. Um, anyway, so I was doing this
Cool.
this bike testing. It is. It's like the fragility of people as it's technology. Um, is you did a 5 minute like all out effort. Um, then you rested 5 minutes, and then the purpose of kind of the test was to get a 20-minute effort to use as your FTP and not do any calculations. So what the criteria for it was, so basically you do these 5-second blowouts, then you do a 5 minute all out, like all out. So I ended up doing 341 for the 5 minutes. So you take 80% of that, and that's where you're supposed to start. It was fascinating to do, and I'm kind of really really interested in it as a whole now. Um, and you start at the 20 minutes at 80% of that, and for the first 10 minutes you're supposed to hold it and just kind of hang right there. Don't go above it, don't go below it, just kind of hold it. And then after 10 minutes, if you feel like you can go up, then go up. If you feel like you can barely hold on, then you go down. And then whatever that number is your number. So my number was 272.8. So like you can say 273. And so I took the 5 minute break and I started off and I started out at 2 like 63, because to be totally honest, my legs felt like absolute trash after having done a 5 minute like all out effort. Like I mean all out. Um Spun easy for 5, and you're doing like a 20-minute effort, which I think is just like, mind numbing anyway. No
Hmm.
matter what you're doing it with. And I was like, I'm not doing 272. I don't care what the program says. I might end up there, but I can't start there because I feel like it's gonna go downhill quickly. And so I started around 264, 265, because to me it wasn't about adhering exactly to the criteria and the instructions. It was getting the best 20-minute result, right? Because if I started at 272, I didn't know what I was going to have. But at that point, what I thought was, if I hold out at 273 to start off this 20-minute set, then I might not make it the full 20. And if I don't make it the full 20, then guess what? It's useless, right? I didn't do it, so I can't apply it. I can't find something useful, right? The same thing goes for race day. Like, you can stick to it, but if you don't finish and you walk the marathon, or walk the half marathon, what did you learn, right? Besides just a reminder that you don't pace very well, you don't listen to yourself. So I reined it back because my goal was to do the best 20 minutes I had. Be damn the criteria, be damn what you're supposed to do. It was just do what I thought I could do best. Listen to my body. I didn't have a TV on. I just had my headphones in. And then after about 10 minutes, I was still at like 268, 269. But after about 10 minutes, I started to feel good again. Like my legs came around. I think I got rid of like some of the rock hardness that you have in your legs after hard effort. And then I got to like 270, 272 around like the 12-minute mark. And at that point, I was like, all right, let's see if I can take the race to 280 or 281 for the next 8 minutes. Because what I felt like I did really well was not follow the criteria in the suggestion, but was listen to my body and the signals that it was telling me. Because at the beginning, the signals that I heard were, dude, don't do that. We can't do it right now. It doesn't mean and I think that's an important like thing to note is, just because we can't do it right now doesn't mean we can't do it later. And but a lot of times people just don't believe they're going to have it later, so they just try to force feed it now. And I ended up just kind of waiting and waiting and waiting. So I was like, dude, I got this. And then I had confidence. I was like, dude, I got 8 minutes left. Let me see what I got. Then after about 4 or 5 minutes, I was like, all right, I got like 2 minutes left. Let me blow it out. And then it ended up finishing at 281. So I was about 9 watts higher than the suggestion was. But can tell you right now, and that has nothing to do with like my mediocre age group bike strength. It's just a lesson on, in my opinion, proper pacing and listening to your body. Because the first 2 or 3 minutes, I thought to myself, this is going to suck so bad if I don't give myself some time. But by the end of it, I felt like it was one of the best paced efforts I've ever done, honestly, because I didn't blindly follow what was supposed to be done. I listened to what my body was telling me to do at the moment, and then I applied reason and effort to it. And then as my body felt differently, I changed my action and my response to what I can do now. Because I didn't revert back to, oh, well, 8 minutes ago you couldn't do this. Why are you doing it now? Right. But we do that so often, like, oh, I'm feeling this now. It means I definitely can't do it later. And when you get to long course racing, that's just, I think, such a good reminder to have of just because you don't have it now doesn't mean you won't have it later. But if you don't listen to your body right now, then you almost certainly won't have it later because you'll be walking or you'll have bonked or you'll have done something, right? Like it's just you have to keep giving yourself a chance, right, to do these things, and be responsible and just learn your body. And also, I think, learn about like how honestly how insane the body can be when you feel stronger at minute 16 than you did at minute 6 right, in a 20-minute effort. It's just you have to listen and just kind of honestly let your body lead you, and just go with the flow instead of having your brain lead you and expecting your body to blindly follow.
Yeah. Well, we always talk about, like, there's nuggets throughout these podcasts or whatever that really kind of can pay off. And basically what you just articulated with numbers is like the gut feeling that I always have had, when I talk about ease into things, because that whole feeling of, like you said, at the 16-minute mark is sort of the feeling I can have at the 2-hour mark of a 4-hour bike. It's sort of like I feel stronger then, and I think a lot of people get into this problem with swimming because, like you said, it is the purest form. There's no watts. You're not watching your pace. There's none of that. And I think most people, if they have a goal, let's say of a 2-minute 100 pace for a race, and I would love to see a study on this. The first 200 yards of a race, I would guarantee you that 90% of people go faster than they want their average to be for that first 200 yards. That's just my guess. But
100%.
so the point being is, like, I was talking to a guy today, and it was like, man, go out at 212 or 220. Just be for the 200, because you can finish strong. I mean, a lot of us have, if we want to do 2-minute pace over the course of a full Ironman, I think a lot of us might be, top end 130 type people, like for 100 or 200, whatever. So, but my point is always, you can finish these things strong if you're training well. And if you let your body kind of feel its way into what you're doing, and, to go out so hard in the swim when you're trying to, or like the other thing I'm sure a lot of people do is if their number is 175 in power on the bike, I'm sure they're trying to just get there and stay there. When I think it should be like start at 150 and end at 180 or whatever. It's just like, I think that's so much more attainable, and you feel it just can change your whole race if you're creeping up on that number the whole time versus getting to it, sticking to it, and like. And I always think about, like, running Louisville, that old flat marathon course, like how hard it is to sustain the same stride and the same rhythm and the same pace for that long. I mean, I think you almost need variation. I think your muscles need to change pace, or slowly build up the blood flow and the strength, proportionately to how your body's going to function the best way. And I think you said it really well in that little test. But I think that to me is almost the secret of racing.
Right. The only disappointing part of the test was I would have been 35 watts higher if I had used a smart trainer. No, in all seriousness, it is. It's just like like how many times have you and I combined heard the words, Coach? I really took the first 3 or 4 miles of that Ironman marathon too slow, and I really think I could have nailed it and have gone faster if I had just come out of the gate, not as slow. Never. Zero combined between the two of us, like
Right.
zero.
No, no.
Never happens. It's always I came out too fast. Like I always, if because I don't we don't I don't give our athletes paces because again, like who knows? Like, can you imagine giving an athlete a pace at Coeur d'Alene when you get off the bike it's 102 and them having to stick to it blindly? Hello, implosion, and not going by effort or any other kind of RP metric is um like I always tell people, they're like, well, just tell me a pace, and I'm like, I'll give you a pace not to go under for the first 3 miles, and it's always like a minute slower than what I know they're going to come out doing. Like they're like, I think I want to do like 9:30s. I think I'm like 10:30s, dude. 10:30s all day. Come out of the gate 10:30s. You know what they're gonna do? 9:30s. But if
Yeah.
you say like 9:15s, they're gonna come out of the gate doing eights. It's just kind of one of those things where you just have to be patient with it, because again, like, you're going to be out there for most, I would say, like, I would probably say, I don't have any statistics on this, but I think the average marathon time in an Ironman is like 4:30. 4 hours and 30 minutes. That's also a lot of people's 70.3 time, or the top 10% of every race. Like, do you understand how long that is to be out there creating your own forward momentum on concrete after having done a 112-mile bike and a 2.4-mile swim in the hottest part of the day? None of that sounds fun. Yeah, here we are signing up for them again. But it's just one of those things where if you don't know, like, I think everybody has this too. Like, you wake up and you're like, today's gonna be a great day, and then at like 2 o'clock you're like, this is the worst day ever. Or you do like the wake up and you spill your first pot of coffee, you realize you're out of coffee, and you're like, this is gonna be the worst day ever. It ends up being an awesome day. Or around 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, you're like, I'm so tired, and you hit the pool and you get out and you're like, no, I feel energized. Like, there's so many. I do it with the podcast sometimes. I'm like, I'm just exhausted, and then we do a podcast and all of a sudden I've got like this like pep in my step, like of energy.
Right.
um you just don't know, right? But it's just important, I think, to recognize and understand the good signals, the bad signals, when there are no signals. Because a lot of times just you not paying attention, or you being in the zone, right? Or not being present. Because that's, I think, honestly, when things can get problematic. Things feel fine. You're like, all right, this is cool. I'm just gonna roll with it. And then 45 minutes later, you realize you haven't drank anything. And you're like, crap, I'm behind, right? It's like we only like to pay attention to things when things are great or when things are bad. But things only are great because you're paying attention to them. And then things go bad when you stop paying attention to, like, just the regular, you know, uh, unfascinating, boring things. And it's just something you have to pay attention to it all the time, and no matter what. Like, I use this analogy, not analogy, but this comparison the other day when talking about pacing in Ironman. It was like, one of the first things my sponsor told me when I was getting sober was, he's like, you're not going to get you're not in the most danger relapse on like the best day of your life or the worst day of your life, because those two times you're always on like high alert. Like, you're high alert because you're too excited, you're too pumped, you're gonna grab a drink. Or you're too bummed, you're too depressed, you're too distraught, you're gonna grab a drink. It's the random Tuesday that'll get you,
Mm,
where you're not paying attention, you get lazy in your recovery, haven't gone to a meeting, you're not doing your step, like, that's when you get hit, when you get lazy. And that is so much like what I think about when I think about how long, and like why I think Ironman is so mentally and emotionally exhausting. It's because you have to pay attention all day. Because if you don't, something bad can happen. It's kind of like I think you said this the other day. It's like being on a mountain bike or trail running, and you kind of look up and you kind of go into cruise control, and all of a sudden you're eating dirt because you chose to look up for a second and check out the mountain view, or you chose to, like, look to the left or assume something, and you bit it on your bike. Like, that's how Ironman racing is. Like, you can zone out and end up crashing, or end up hitting a cone, or hitting a pothole, right? Because I mean, you say the same thing about bonking that I say about flat tires on the bike course. A lot of people, flat tires are just driver error, because you just didn't pay enough attention to not run right into a pothole. And then you end up getting a pinch flat. Like, that's just how it is. You have to pay attention. You have to do those things. You have to be prepared. And just and honestly, just be on it. You have to be in tune. You have to be on it. And again, that's like not just the physical time that you're on course, right? It's the mental and emotional amount of time you have to focus and concentrate. I mean, most people can't hold a conversation for 5 minutes without getting distracted, picking up their phone, right? Now you ask them to be on course with an Ironman, swimming 2.4, biking, with cars and other people, while handing out bottles of nutrition for 5.5, 7.5, 8 hours, and then running a marathon. You're going to get distracted, you're going to forget, you're going to make a mistake. And that's why I think it's so important to also not just hone your skills physically, but also mentally and emotionally when you train.
yep.
That's all I got for today, man.
That's it.
That's it.
Well, that's good enough for me, man.
Thanks. Appreciate it. This
Yeah.
podcast is brought to you by Wahoo Smart Trainers. Yeah, man. You gotta have.
I got to go check out that thread. I didn't even look
It's
at it,
dude.
but it sounds like
It's
it's
really.
interesting.
Yeah. It's. I felt like a politician. Honestly. It's
Oh,
like.
really?
Yeah. Yeah. You
So
kind of.
you're in there.
Oh yeah. I respond to a few, but the rest of them you just kind of let people you let people live their life and have everyone's got their own opinions, man.
What was the question? Just that they're overrated?
Yeah.
Why
And
are
they
so
are.
people so
Smart trainers
defensive?
are overrated because I mean everyone gets defensive. It's like the first right as an American to get defensive. I think the biggest point of contention
I'll
is that
go as
people.
far as say everything's overrated.
No, I'd agree with you. No, I think the biggest misconception is that people read smart trainers are overrated and think or assume that I said trainers are overrated, which is not true.
Oh,
In the context of our
uh,
conversation, I actually said that if you had to choose, I would pick a power meter and a dumb trainer over just buying a smart trainer.
mm,
Because in that context, they're way overrated. Because you can do all the same things. Yes, your trainer can't add resistance to your thing and do your virtual courses, but I can always change gears if I want to. Like we've been doing for the last 30 years. But I'm just old and grumpy. Uh,
yeah, that's my
that's
man.
I'm
You're
telling you, we're
taking over my
taking
role, I
over
think.
the old grumpiness, but no, people get
It
very,
only
very
gets better, buddy.
people are very passionate about their smart trainers. I can tell you that they're very, very passionate. We own 4 at the hub that our athletes use, and I use my dumb trainer still. I'm a power meter. It does all the same fancy things.
Take a
Um,
guess how many times I've been on a smart trainer.
oh, I already know. And the answer is 0. And the answer is unequivocally 0. I can also tell you this: it's a lot easier to travel with a dumb trainer because they're so much lighter. Yet I can still get my workouts in. But that's it. That's all we got for today. We appreciate you
I
tuning
can't
in.
believe people are getting mad about that.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah, that's such a stupid comment. I'm like, man, easy, dude. I've got feelings too. My goodness, like I say a lot of stupid stuff, but this wasn't one of them. And so I think somebody else was like, I hope Robbie clarifies his comments. Like, dude, I'm not the president of the United States. I'm not the Pope. I'm not the mayor. I don't need to clarify comments for my PR person to stand up in the pulpit on the Sunday morning. Listen, I say a lot of things. A lot of them are right. A lot of them probably wrong. But that's what you get when you produce a free podcast that you don't edit. You can just say what you want and say what you feel. I'll say a lot of good shit, a lot of bad shit. I don't need to clarify anything. I'm not that important. I just found it
let me
fascinating.
take a little pressure off you, man. You know what I think is overrated? Running hats.
Oh God, I can't. We're gonna get so much blowback for that. Running hats are overrated. Aren't we about to order running hats?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
I mean,
That's what I thought.
it doesn't mean I don't cave into the populace, but I'm just saying.
Uh, Listen, we've got polos from Lululemon with our logo on them, so we flipped the shark a long time ago, buddy.
Yes, we did, man. All right,
Was it,
well, let's go get some sleep. I
overrated
mean,
piece
it's
of
like
equipment
6
is?
o'clock.
Bike helmets. Just bike without a helmet. Okay, just get out there and bike with that. No, always wear helmets. Like a huge pet peeve of mine. Obviously, is to see people without their helmet on. Be safe. Have fun. Enjoy your weekend. However you want to spend it. Outside, inside, smart trainer, dumb trainer, doesn't matter. We love you, and we will catch you back on a Monday. And hope you guys have an awesome July 4th.
Yep. Have a good time out there, everybody. But
All
don't
right,
get
dude.
too
See you, man.
crazy. All right, see you.